Hello and welcome to another episode of Same Blood, where we talk to people about life, I guess. That's the thing. Today, I have the great privilege? I can say that word.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I have the great privilege of talking with Mr. Cavanaugh James.
Hey, thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat.
Absolutely. So, the obvious question here is that your real name?
It is my real name. You know, my mom saw it as a last name in a magazine when she was pregnant with me, and it means a merry heart, Cavanaugh. And so she just decided to take it as a first name.
Well, you know, I think if you just heard the name Cavanaugh, you're like, that's a cool name, except that more often than not, it is the last name, so you just kind of associate it with it. But then it also doesn't really help because James is normally a first name.
I know.
So it's like, that seems backwards.
It's been confusing people since 1989.
89, really?
Yep.
What month?
October.
I'm May 89.
Well, we just missed each other.
Fellow old people. So, really, this is
There's a 40-year-old, by the way, who's just rolling right now, furious that we're saying that. Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
So we're just talking about AARP today on the show. Okay, all right. So, seriously, though, thank you for being a part of this conversation, knowing basically nothing about me. You met my sister.
I met her. Gabby offered me snacks and a bribe to be here, so I'm here.
That's generally speaking how we get guests, is we will give you some snacks and you get to talk about things.
That's good. Well, I'm happy to be here for that.
Fantastic. I do want to get something out in the open, and that is that we do share something in common.
Oh, okay.
I know that I've seen on your Instagram that you are friends with the Jonas Brothers, and you may not know this, but Joe Jonas is actually my best friend.
Oh, wow, really?
Now, by best friend, what I mean by that is that when I was auditioning for American Idol, he was a guest judge the day I auditioned, and he sent me through to Hollywood and doesn't remember that I exist. So that's a very loose
I'm going to remind him.
Yeah, he's going to be like, wait, what?
Yeah, there you
and
go.
And who was that again? And I'm going to be like, my best friend.
That's hilarious. So, yeah. Well, I'm glad he sent you through and that this isn't a sadder story to tell.
Well, you obviously didn't watch my season of American Idol.
I didn't. Couldn't be bothered. No, I'm kidding. Of course, I watched for a while, and then when the judges got wonky, I had to dip out.
I was Simon Cowell's last year, right?
Right. Who else was on that year?
Other contestants?
No. The judges. It was him and
Randy, Simon, Cara DiGuardi, and Ellen DeGeneres. The one year she was on. So, but anyway, all that to say, we do share that in common.
Oh, that's
so
good.
I saw that and I was like, this is pretty cool. I didn't see it at the family gatherings, though.
No, I know. I couldn't make it.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, all right. So normally we start out this show by talking about some favorites, and we start with a snack. So we asked you what your favorite snack is, and you said...
I said cheesy chips. Like anything with a crunch and some cheese on it, I'm going to go ham on. Like, period.
And you don't know what is down here, and so I'm going to let him reach down and grab one of the things that's down here, and then you'll get to see what he selected.
Now, I'm going to go with the Pringles first because, I mean, obviously Pringles are one of the greatest American institutions and brands, but cheddar cheese especially. Delicious.
100%. I do find it fascinating, and I'm really curious about the origin story of Pringles. Like, who thought, bags, overrated. What would be awesome is a circle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pringle or Mrs. Pringle, whomever you are.
Right? Fantastic stash.
Fantastic. I wish I could do that.
100%. All right, so while we're enjoying some Pringles, we like to talk about some other favorites. Just to let people get to know you a little bit. Because the idea behind this podcast and these conversations is that right now, the atmosphere that we're in as a country, as a world, is that we're looking at things that tear us apart. And we're focusing on things that make us different, that we do not have in common. So, what we like to do is talk about things that maybe we do have in common. Yep. So, to that end, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, goodness. My favorite movie. I'll tell you, Waiting for Guffman. Now I know, that may be a deep cut.
I don't know that movie.
Okay, so there is this writer and director, his name is Christopher Guest, and he basically kind of created with Catherine O'Hara, and I don't know if she was a part of the creation, but he basically had an improv troupe that he started making movies with. So there was A Mighty Wind, Waiting for Guffman, this movie called Best in Show, and there's basically no script. So it's all these people getting together. And Waiting for Guffman is about this small town putting together a musical that they think is going to go to Broadway, and it's horrible. And by horrible, I mean fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never heard of that. I'll have to go check that out.
But how about this? I can go a little more mainstream. Okay, Mrs. Doubtfire. That is like my go-to. I could watch it at any time, all the time.
That makes sense. And actually, normally how I ask that question is, like, what's a movie that if it's on TV, you're always going to stop and watch some of it? Because there are movies that I absolutely love, just fantastic. Right. But if it's just on TV, I'm like, I don't know if I have the mental commitment level to watch this.
You don't want to watch The Passion of the Christ every day?
Not every day.
Right.
I do watch it every Thursday.
Oh, that's good. So, that's good. At least you're on a schedule.
Yeah, exactly. But it is interesting because it's like what your favorite movie is versus the movie that you'll always stop down and watch. Right. Like movie Sahara, to me, if you ask me, like, what's your favorite movie? Sahara's not going to be my absolute favorite movie.
But you will watch it.
Yeah, because it's such a fun movie to watch.
Yep.
So, yeah. Anyway, so that's good. 2 options. All right. Are you a sports fan?
I'm not.
That's totally fine. Totally fine.
I'll tell you, I grew up in a family with 3 brothers and a sister, and it was kind of a requirement that we played golf growing up. Mm-hmm. And so as I got on into I'm a creative person and got into theater and write music and sing, and it just was not something I gravitated towards.
Okay.
I'm assuming you're a sports fan?
I am.
Yeah.
But I asked that because most people a lot of people just have a favorite team or something that they follow. And that's something that people are passionate about.
Yeah, of course.
And so that's why I asked the question. I love sports. I just enjoy it. But I also understand that it is just another thing that for you to point your passion at. And if you have something else that works better, then let's go there.
But I'll tell you something. I will go to any and all college football games I'm invited to. Those are one of my favorite things. So it's not something that I follow and I keep up with, but I really enjoy it.
It's a good atmosphere.
Yeah, it totally is.
All right, favorites. Who said movies? Favorite sports? Favorite snack? What else? What else is... Okay, this is a question I was thinking about earlier.
Okay.
I haven't asked anybody this.
All right.
What is something like a... kind of a... Let's say odd, but an odd fascination you have?
Oh, okay. I've already got the answer to this.
Perfect.
So, I'm a real roller coaster nerd. And have been since I was a little kid. And I grew up kind of going to Disney World, but also just being obsessed with like new roller coasters coming out and wanting to design them. So I'm that nerd. And my friends have like recently discovered it over the past few years that when I'm like stressed about something, I will get on YouTube and watch point of view videos from people riding roller coasters and rides from all around the world. So I am that nerd.
You know what? That's very weird.
I know it is.
So it's actually... I think it sounds odd when you first say it, but
it sounds odd after you say it too.
No. Well, here's why I don't think necessarily that it does once you kind of explain it, because roller coaster is just another experience, right?
Right.
So it's like saying, I love performing on stage.
Sure.
That's weird. That is it's a weird experience. Some people cannot stand it. It is an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
It's just this thing. But as a performer, I'll watch other people's performances, and you enjoy it, and you get to kind of put yourself in that situation. And so it makes sense in that level. Roller coaster is just something people don't normally spend as much time interacting with, but it does make sense because it still pulls on the same parts of people's minds, I guess.
Right, yeah. No, it's true. I like the creativity of it, like you said, and, it's a funny thing that I've kind of not tried to keep from my friends, but I'm always that person who's like, well, maybe we could do a vacation at Disney World or go to Cedar Point or Magic Mountain, and people are like, why do you know these amusement parks in other parts of the country? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
Because I'm fun?
Because I'm fun and cool. Yeah. I'm hip.
Yeah. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, a beach somewhere? Yeah. That sounds boring.
I've seen sand gets everywhere.
Yeah, I'd like to go inland, preferably where there is nothing but a theme park and some chain restaurants.
Roller coasters and Chili's.
Yeah, Roller Coasters and Chili's is the name of my next memoir.
You know what? I would read that.
Yeah, I bet you would.
Roller Coasters and Chili's.
It'd be a good book. I'd read it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm curious from your perspective, and from your perspective, I mean that I have zero idea about your everyday life and what that looks like. But right now, have you felt like having conversations with people, just in general, recently, has gotten easier or harder in your personal life?
I've found that I've had to kind of hone in on the areas that are safe, and not even safe, but on the areas where the blood pressure can stay down. Everybody's on such different sides, it feels like right now, and even within the church and with a lot of people I love, there's a lot of differing kind of opinions. But the thing that I go back to as the commonality, and what I enjoy talking about is about people and about what's going on in their lives and about how I can partner with them and about just relationship in general. So that's where I'm honing in. So it's not as much as like, it's not a difficult thing. I've just had to kind of shift the focus to be like, oh no, we're not talking about politics right now, or we're not talking about, mask versus anti-mask. Like, actually, I want to know how you're doing. And this has been an insane year for, I think, everybody. And so I just don't have the energy or the strength to kind of focus on the things that are dividing us right now as much as what I know does bring us together, which is commonality in relationship and love.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we've talked about on the podcast quite a bit because I have this thought in my head that one of the biggest issues that we have as a world, even as a country, as people, is that we are making bad assumptions about other people, even people that we know. Right.
Totally.
And excuse me, we're putting these bad assumptions on them based on if they espouse this particular view or belief.
Yep.
Right. So then, even if we know them, we know this is a good person. We know this is a person who loves their family and all these things. We're like, all of that disappears if we find out that they're on the wrong side.
To us, whatever we perceive the wrong side to be.
If you disagree with me, then all of those things that I know are true, right, are all of a sudden not true, and I'm going to put all of these other evil things and bad things on you.
It's crazy,
because we disagree.
It's crazy how much weight we put on a difference of opinion or conviction, and how we can use that to kind of be the deciding factor for a person, which is so crazy because it takes so much time to build up equity with someone and to feel as if they, love you and actually have your best interest at heart, and how quickly that can, teeter in your mind when they don't subscribe to a view that you see as like really necessary or integral to your faith, to your relationships. And it's just a bummer because I don't think that that's the way we're supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. For me, I've tried to, and this is my own life, right? This is something that I realized I was not doing as much as I should have. And that is that when I interact with people, I'm trying to remove any preconceived ideas I may have about them, right? And to not just to remove them, but to replace them, with some assumptions that are going to be true almost all of the time. And if they aren't, it's okay, because it's a better place to start. And that is that you as a person, I'm going to assume that you love people, that you want to be loved, that you want to be respected, that you want to show respect to other people, that you care about your friends, your family, that you have a passion for different things, that you have a passion for life, that you're not walking around just wishing other people harm. Right,
exactly.
Like, you're coming from that's where you're coming from. And so if you have a view that I disagree with, right, that we vehemently disagree with, if I still hold that that's where you're coming from, then that gives me the ability to say, okay, so we disagree.
Right.
And that's okay. We can disagree, and I don't have to assume there's a big problem here.
No, because it's a small piece of the bigger picture.
Right. Well, then we also have that commonality to come back to, right?
Sure.
And one of the things that we talked about with somebody else on the podcast was that just this idea that, like, if I cut off that relationship, then I'm removing the possibility that I can speak into your life, or that you can speak into mine. So if we have a disagreement, that means that there's a potential that one person is right and the other person's wrong, right? Which means that if I get rid of your idea completely, or your perspective, then I'm not giving myself the opportunity to look at how I view things and figure out, like, is this a bad belief? Is this a wrong belief? Which, that's how you get, when you close your mind off, that's how you get really entrenched.
It's true.
Really.
And when you start digging in your heels and isolated thinking that, is, I believe this, so this means it's right. And then you kind of start using that as a means to not even demonize, but to kind of look down on other people's viewpoints. Then you end up on an island by yourself anyway, because at the end of it, you're still going to disagree even with the person closest to you. Disagreeing and having, a difference of opinions and viewpoints is a part of life. We all have different perspectives. We all grew up, even though it may be similar in some cases, different from every single person, because no person's experience is the same. So it's like, why can't we just level the playing field and understand that we're all coming at it from the same place of just being human?
Right.
Trying the best that we can.
Yeah. Well, I've got 9 brothers and sisters, and we were all homeschooled. And so,
were y'all a baseball team?
Yeah, well, kind of. We played a lot of sports outside.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. But we had obviously the same, sort of upbringing.
Sure.
But we'll sit and talk about different life experiences, from our childhood.
And I bet you remember them completely differently.
Oh, yeah. Well, absolutely. And even, like, the perspective on them, you're like, wait, what?
Right. That's not what that meant. Right. Or that. Yeah.
Like, we were in the same room in the same situation with the same people, and we took this very differently.
Right.
And that's just what it is. And so, the idea that like me and somebody we have completely different upbringings, that we're gonna just agree on stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I guess the way I want to ask this is, do you think about, well, I guess when you think about the idea of diversity, right? How much weight do you stick on diversity for the sake of diversity, or diversity for the sake of that we're just around all kinds of people and you want everybody around? Do you put weight on diversity for the sake of diversity?
For me, the weight on it lies in the fact that I just think that our tables are meant to always be growing, and if what I believe about my relationship with the Lord or with people to be true, it's that there's room for everybody at the table, and actually the more people that you have around and of differing backgrounds and perspectives, a fuller picture you get. If I were to grow up and live in the same town and only have the experiences that are provided to me there and the people there, then my world kind of has a ceiling at that point. And so for me, diversity is just a crucial part of life. It's crucial for me. It's crucial for environments to be healthy, because a lot of times we can miss things and actually end up, playing to a group or a small, a sect of people, because that's the only thing that we're seeing and being consumed with, when the world is just so much bigger than that. So I don't know. I almost feel like it's both, because I like diversity for diversity's sake, because I know the health that it brings. And then I also like diversity for the fact that I know what having differing perspectives does to really strengthen my own beliefs and really give me a solid foundation to have a viewpoint in context to the world around me, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Absolutely it does. I think growing up, I didn't really think that much specifically about diversity, but I had diversity sort of dropped on me because I had the opportunity to travel a lot. And so I went to South Africa. I went to Japan.
South Africa?
Yeah, exactly. South Africa. Yeah, it's Swaziland, right? Yeah. And I've been to like South America and Australia and Korea and just a bunch of these different places where you're around so many examples of these amazing creatures we call humans, right? And the diversity that exists in cultures and attitudes and ideas. And you realize, you come home and you're like, wait, we are not even scratching the surface of what is out there, the ideas, the creativity, the perspectives that are incredibly valuable. And I think that's where that's why diversity does matter. Now, I think it matters that you have that perspective, right? That it's not just about like, well, we need to have a certain amount of specific people.
We need to check off these boxes.
Because then it's like, then you're not really interacting with people for what their value is as humans. Right. And that's where I think that it gets tricky, where it's like, I checked a box. That doesn't mean you cared about that person.
No.
Which is ridiculous. Right. And that's what's so sad to me, is it's like, you miss the value in a human, right?
Totally.
And so that's why I asked that question. And it's a great answer. And people who have not experienced diversity or exposed themselves just to other people, other cultures, other ideas, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I think for me, personally, it started as a little kid growing up in Texas and in, the heart of the Bible Belt, and being around a bunch of people who didn't share similar things that they enjoyed, similar passions. And so I always kind of felt a little bit on my own anyway. And so whenever I got into high school, I was a theater kid, and for me to meet other people who found the same things funny, who had a same sense of humor or ability to kind of look at life through a certain lens that I understood, that really was what kind of started me on this thing of like, I want to understand how other people see, because there's something that's so valuable about expanding your surrounding. And I also understand that that's not something everyone is privileged to be able to do, and to be able to get outside of the town that they grew up in. And that's not everyone's story. So in no way do I mean to kind of minimize that and say that that's wrong. But I think that there are ways that we can expand who we're around and what we're listening to, and not in a way of, filling our mind with everything out there, but in a way of just opening our arms and realizing that difference doesn't kill us. Right. And that it's actually okay to talk to people who are different, and it's not a threat to who we are.
Right. Well, and I think that goes back to that idea of some basic good assumptions about people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are people who grow up in the same town and spend their whole life there,
Right.
and the thing is, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they're not doing it necessarily to just avoid being around other humans, right? That's just where their life was, and that's great, and they're interacting with the world around them, you know. And so there's not a problem with that.
Right.
There's just also an opportunity that exists to expand your knowledge, your understanding, your life experiences.
Yep.
You know, that has a lot of value in it, and you know and it seems like such a simple idea, but it feels like that's like the nuanced opinion that's like a little bit, and it's like running between kind of where people want to be at right now, where it's like you need to have diversity for the sake of diversity's sake, or you're a terrible human. And it's like, well, you grew up in a small town and you work there and you got married and you raised some kids, and you know, that's just what
and you need to be educated maybe, and you need to like have your mind expanded a little bit, but that doesn't demonize you because that's been your upbringing.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. All right, so this is a big question.
Okay.
All right. What is Cavanaugh James' purpose?
You know, I think that the past decade or so of my life, I've been kind of figuring this out because I graduated. Well, just a little quick backstory was that, you know, I graduated high school and had a theater scholarship to go and do musical theater in Austin at a school there. And then halfway through that, felt like that was not what I was supposed to do. So I ended up trading that in for a degree from Bible college, which was an exchange I made. Right. And then ended up going to a university and getting my degree. And so I kind of went from a life of wanting to be on stage and wanting to be in theater and writing in that sphere to, you know, leading worship and to kind of being fully plugged in the church. And then from there started actually kind of going out, and I lived in New York for a bit and then LA as well for a couple of years. And I realized that my purpose is actually to be a thermostat in a room. And so, you know, for me, I've just felt over the past decade or so that where I'm most content and where I'm most in the center of who I'm supposed to be is when I'm able to walk alongside other people and champion them. And that doesn't negate what's on my own life. And, you know, I just released a book last year, Higher Power Has a Name, and then I'm working on a second one right now. And so that's very much a part of who I am, but I really love people, and I love walking with people and being counsel, and I love actually just being a source of health in people's lives, and maybe for, you know, people who don't necessarily have access to that on the daily in whatever profession or kind of walk they're in. So I like having friends of just all different creeds and all over the place, and I love championing them. And if that's what I could do full time, that's absolutely what I would do, to go and be able to partner with people and go, okay, so I see this and this in your life with these people around you. Maybe let's focus on this thing because this is where health is. And so, yeah, I don't know if that fully answers your question, but I really feel like I'm called to walk alongside people and kind of bring them into health in some ways.
No, I mean, that makes sense because your purpose is other people.
Right.
Like that's when I boil it down.
It's like, it's nerdy, but I really do love people.
No.
And I'm like, I love friendship. You know, I was such a lonely kid growing up that I didn't think that graduating high school, I would have any friends. And in fact, you know, when I graduated high school, my life kind of did a 180 with my transition from, you know, wanting to be in theater full time to actually being like, no, I'm supposed to be in ministry. And with that kind of came, you know, this whole kind of flipped thing on its head where I realized, oh, I'm not going to be alone, and I'm actually meant to pour into other people. And so I found so much family and so much life there. That I just see what healthy community does. So if I could bring that into every work setting, into every church setting, into every relational setting, I would be very, very happy to do that.
Yeah, well, I think that's how people are supposed to be. We're supposed to be in community with each other, you know, whether that's with your actual family or just the people that you're around. And it's really unfortunate that that's not what the world is, you know, and which means that there is obviously a need for that, you know. I don't think we were designed to be, you know, just isolated people only concerned with ourselves. It's sort of a miserable way to live, you know. And oftentimes you'll see that the most successful people in the world are the people who created something that was designed to help other people, to serve other people, you know. And I think that's obviously it's very important. So, and what that looks like can take on a lot of different ways. What have you found as far as people's reaction to you pointing out or saying, hey, like maybe this is not the best option here. What about this? Are people generally speaking open to that, or is it more of like a, feel like they're getting called out, or is it more in the delivery?
Well, it's really about equity.
Right.
So, I say that that's the end goal, but that is like a small percentage of what the relationship is. For me, it's about letting someone know that you're a consistent voice in their life and that you can't be scared away and that you're more concerned about their well-being than your own. And so once that's really established and the consistency is laid out, then you're able to come in with things that, may be a little harder to hear, but you have the context that supports you being able to say the hard thing. And I think that there's a lot of things that go into that, means knowing the environment, knowing the right time when to actually speak, knowing when it's important to let something go or to go, what, actually, that's not something that I need to address right now. And also realizing that, I'm not God. And so there's not a thing in me where I feel like I need to correct people. It's more so from the point of like being a voice in someone's life who they know they can go to when they want or need counsel. And also someone who, if there's the odd time where I'm like, I actually have a real bad feeling about this like situation. Can I share my concern with this? That's received differently than if I'm just in the middle of a group being like, oh, you're going to say that thing right now? Or, right. It's like that doesn't work. And nobody responds to correction like that. And especially when you're dealing with people who I already respect. So it's like, there's not a bone in me that feels like I have the right to tell other people what they're doing, but I have spent a lot of time trying to love people well, and so with that comes a perspective that's a bit fine-tuned, so I can see things maybe a little clearer, but I wait for that invitation because look, we all know if you're not ready to hear something and then someone's like, let me just, tell you this real quick. You're like, cool. And there's the door. Right. So I try to be really sensitive to that. But I found that people are pretty receptive. And in truth, people actually want someone to care enough to speak truth. Right. We think that we're loving people whenever we just kind of skirt around issues or let people stay in dysfunction and unhealth. But real love is actually being bold enough to say, I love you enough to say this. And it's okay if you're mad at me in the moment. Like, I can live with that. I'm big enough. It's all right. I'll talk to you tomorrow when you're not mad.
Right. Absolutely.
So.
Well, and it's really interesting. The reason I ask about how people respond to it is because in real relationships, that's what you see. Right. When you've built that equity, you see that you have the opportunity to speak into people's lives, and they have the opportunity to speak back into yours. And I think that's another important part of it.
Sure, totally.
Like, if you walk in and you're like, I get to talk about your stuff.
Yeah, it's not a one-way door.
Excuse me.
No,
there has to be that give and take.
Oh, and that's been fun too, because just, it's like, oh, great. So we're talking about my stuff now. Right. I understand. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we put on the patient hat.
Right. Yes.
But what you see so often on social media and other places that people just calling out strangers and just
that needs to stop.
It's like that's all social media is, and that's what honestly most of our public discourse is just a bunch of people who don't know each other, calling each other out, calling each other terrible names, and telling that each other we're the worst humans in the
just lobbing world. Grenades over the fence,
just chucking it in there. It's and that's why I think we've lost some of that ability to have these actual conversations that you're talking about, and why there's such a need for it. Because in a friendship, you'd like, oh, that's what you do, right?
Right, of course.
But we burn so many bridges. And because the world is so toxic, I feel like a lot of people just want to go into their own secluded little bubble where it's like, I just don't want any negativity.
I don't want it. Right? I don't want anyone to hurt me. I don't want anyone to say something I don't want to hear.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. It's like our ability to take or absorb positive criticism has been sapped a lot by what you see around you in the world.
Well, and because people's experience with criticism is rarely from a good place. And I mean, we could be here hours talking about people growing up in the church and the marks that has left on a lot of people. And there's a real kind of carelessness that people associate with being corrected or with hearing something difficult. So part of what I'm passionate about is changing that context of just going, no, actually this is what love looks like, and we've been told it's this thing over here that's really fluffy and kind of abstract and an amoeba of a thing, But it's actually a little bit more concrete and a little bit more tangible in conversation. And I feel like in the end, that's being willing to have those conversations and to be wrong and to disagree and still love each other. It's like, can you disagree and then still come and have dinner that night? One of my rules with like my friends and people I do life with is just that if I'm upset with you, that does not mean a stop in our friendship. If I'm irritated about something, I'm still calling you the next day and we're still going to do that thing that we planned last week. You don't get to disengage because we're fighting right now. I love you. Like, that's not how this is going to go. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's important, and that's something that growing up in a big family. It's like, well, I might not like you for like, I don't know, a day, but you're still family. Like, we're still going to be okay. It's, that's not going to disappear because of a disagreement or something like that. And just to bring it all back around, and if you're watching this and you're hearing me clear my throat and thinking, he's got the Rona.
The Rona.
Just know, it's because if I eat something that's a little cheesy.
The Pringles.
Yes,
oh, yeah,
the little coating on the throat.
I know. That's why I did one. I was like, if I do more, I'm going to be...
And I knew it. I had 4, and I was like, I feel like
I'm
going
to pay for it.
Back to bite me.
But wasn't it so worth it?
So worth it. I'm going to polish that off when we're done. Okay, but bringing this all the way back around, it seems to me that what your passion is, what your purpose is in life, is largely what's missing from the conversation in today's world, and is one of the biggest reasons why we have so much anger and misunderstanding.
Right.
Because we don't have these relationships with other people who we disagree with, we've built up the equity where we can disagree and still love.
Right.
We can disagree and still continue to do life with. As a society, we tend to cut this out of our lives.
Sure.
Right? And so then when you do that in your own life and then the society's done that and we get entrenched in these positions, then it is a you versus me.
Right.
Instead of a, hey, you are valuable as a human, as a person. Your perspective matters, and so I want to listen to that. And I'm gonna choose to not hate you.
Right.
If I disagree with you, I'm just gonna choose not to hate you. And in fact, I would love to learn. But that perspective is like completely gone.
No,
and so needed, and that's why I think your purpose has so much value.
Well, thank you.
And why I think it's important that more people latch onto that and try to incorporate that. But it's so difficult because it's like right now, it's like, I'm so scared to talk to people about things that we might disagree with.
Right. Well, I think too, it doesn't help the information we get, where we get, it's like right now, there's not a ton of trustworthy sources. And so everything feels up in the air. So for me, that's, I've had to ground myself this year in relationship because without it, I just know I'm like a balloon in the air, that's just been let go.
Just tossed around. It's going to be a mess, guys.
Right.
But we will get through this.
Oh, we
hopefully. Hopefully. No, I think there has to be some kind of a, just people in general, like has to be some kind of a reset for society as like a, we're going to kind of have to draw a line in the sand and say, this is not really how you have life with each other. And like, you can't keep going this direction.
Correct.
So we got to kind of stop and go, we went a little too far there.
Right.
Maybe let's turn around just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's ignore the people who have made their livings in their life out of dividing us.
Right.
So the thing people don't talk about is like there's literally people who's made their lives and their livings out of creating division between people.
True.
So please ignore them.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just cut them out if that's their perspective. But there has to be some, hopefully. That's my hope, right?
Oh, no, I got that hope.
That's the prayer,
but it starts with us, and it
100%.
Starts with, making the decision each day to, like, live that way, which is more difficult than it should be sometimes.
Right. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. This is what I've seen with the podcast. The idea seems more difficult. And then you sit down, sitting across from somebody who you've spent no time with or know almost nothing about.
Right.
And you start talking about life. And you don't look to chuck a grenade into the conversation.
Totally.
You just look to interact with them and learn. And then you find yourself talking for an hour and you go, man, that was a great conversation. And I wasn't looking for a reason not to like them. So what I found is that I actually like them. They're good people. And, we have so much in common. And then it's like, oh, that's not actually that hard.
No. Yeah.
But it seems like it's going to be.
Right.
And it's like, so just start from that. Like, just start from this set of decent assumptions. Go from there. Let people prove you wrong that way instead of the other way.
Totally. And what does it cost you truly? Okay, to be inconvenienced or irritated for a moment if they say something that hurts your feelings.
Right.
Great. Grow up.
That's okay. That's something that one of the guys we interviewed, Claude Williams, he said, I asked him, I was like, so, how do we fix this, right? And he goes, well, first of all, we need to start acting like adults.
It's ridiculous. I've been floored this year.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm the millennial. I'm supposed to be like out here acting wild,
acting a fool.
Yeah, not the baby boomers. I'm kidding. It's everyone.
No, you're not wrong. Oh, okay. Anyway, all right. So, I don't even know how long we've been talking, but let's kind of wrap this up with some thoughts on if you're going to give something. And I think we've already covered this, but let's tangibly break it down to what is something that somebody watching this, somebody listening to this, what do you do today? What do you do today? What do you do tomorrow? What is something you can incorporate in your life today, tomorrow, to try to start to bridge that gap, try to start to remove some of these, this anger, frustration, division that exists? What do you think are a couple things they can start incorporating ASAP?
Right. The number one thing for me is just people's willingness to serve the room they're in, which I know is a super Christianese way to say that. But the truth is that if you decide before you even get out of your apartment, out of your house, wherever you are, that you're going to engage every person from the level of what can I do for you, even if it's just like giving a kind word. This morning I was walking by where I live, and it's a challenge that I'm like, I'm going to say hello and good morning to each person, and the ones who look especially mad to be up are going to be my first. I'm going to change up people's day by serving them with some kindness, by making sure that I'm not, the jerk who walks in and lets the door slam on your face, to be the person who's like, I went voting yesterday and a bunch of people came in the door right behind me, and I was like, y'all go in front of me, and they're like, oh no, you were here first, and we did that whole thing, and I was like, no, but actually it's fine. I'm totally fine. And then you start having a conversation, and you don't realize how just being aware of the room you're in and being aware of the people in it, and the fact that they're all walking with their own stories, with their own hurt for that day, with their own obstacles that they're trying to fight through, and that it's actually just a better rhythm to get in, to walk into a room and go, okay, what can I do? How can I serve and love whoever's here? So, that's the first thing, because when you're thinking about other people, you actually can't be so focused on your own stuff. Yeah. And so it's like you flip the perspective there, and then it kind of opens up a more fun way to go throughout your day.
Oh, 100%. It makes me think of a quote that I heard, and I'm going to butcher it probably a little bit. Can't wait. Well, it's the idea of, if you walk into a room and you don't find any love there, it's because you didn't bring any with you. Mm-hmm. Because if you're in there,
it's true.
And there's no light, there's no love, there's no, concern or care for other people. Then you didn't bring it with you.
Right.
If you're waiting for somebody else to be the one to bring that into the situation, well, you're going to be waiting for a long time, potentially.
It's true.
So be that.
Well, and people are, nobody asked me any questions. Did you ask anybody any questions? Right. That's the other big thing. I'm just like, if you could just challenge yourself to be like, okay, so not even tell me something about you, not a generic, boring question like that, but to just engage people and ask them about themselves and what they're going through, the world really does open up. It just does. And you're unable to kind of maintain not a small view, but your scope of what you see just expands. And so, I don't know, I think it's just healthy for us to be able to go in, to try to find out about people. How can we serve them, even in a moment? If I'm getting up out, from a table with a group of 6 people, and maybe I don't know 4 of them, I'm going to ask if anybody needs anything, and I'm going to mean it. And I'm going to, okay, what were you drinking? Oh, a cherry Coke? Okay, great, I'll go and grab that. Oh, you wanted some more ketchup? Got that. That's a simple thing that costs me nothing, but automatically shows that I'm interested, that I care about you beyond my own needs, and it gets me out of myself. We don't need help thinking about ourselves and our own issues.
We're good at that.
We're pretty solid there. So we've got to help ourselves get out of ourselves. So
it sounds like, to sum it up, you need to genuinely care about other people.
Isn't that a paradigm shift?
Yeah. Wow.
Just genuinely care.
Guys, we talked way too long. We could have just said that at the start. Guys, care about other people. But that's really what it boils down to, largely.
It's true.
Okay, so You have a book out.
I do have a book out, yeah.
And the title again?
It's called Higher Power Has a Name.
Higher Power Has a Name.
And you can get it on CavanaughJames.com or Amazon or Barnes & Noble, any of those booksellers. And then I have another book that is unrelated to that I'll be announcing here in the next few months. Yeah.
And you're on all of the socials.
I'm on all the socials.
If people would like to follow Mr. Cavanaugh James, you can do that as well.
Yep.
But thank you so much for sitting down with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
I say us. It sounds weird. There's other people behind the camera.
He says that, but I can't see them.
I don't just refer to myself as us. Oh, man. But no, thank you for sitting down. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And as always, we'll see you guys on the next one.